This is The Shit Take. Join me, Stellaby, and my co-host Arrow for the win as we cover everything from entertainment to current events. We hope to normalize the differing of opinions and keep an open attitude toward anyone who would like to share theirs. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Now let's stoke some flames. So, the trailers to the show, I feel, make the show out to be a silly show.
Absolutely. They even did the whole side-by-side thing again, like
Yeah.
the side-by-side what's supposed to be. I'm actually really upset with the cowboy guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like that. They showed like the side-by-side, and I was just like, my
Mhm.
roommate's like, oh yeah, dude, like it's totally him. I was like, no, he's not dressed as a cowboy. He's like, he looks like a secret agent for some reason. Like, I just, whatever aesthetic changes you want to make, fine. But like, you can't sit there and say, oh, this change was done for the better and not expect people to call you out on your bullshit. Like, that was literally his character. He was like,
Yeah.
he thought himself as like this gunslinging, badass Wild Wild West guy, rode on a horse, literally hog-tied them. Like, that was his character. You don't change that, like, then pretend like it's something completely different. Even by the end of the episode, he was a samurai. Like, the guy's personas were her personalities.
Yeah.
You know, like, it doesn't make any sense to change that. The whole thing about like changing Anna's character from like a store owner to like some nightclub owner. Like, if you're looking for information from an information broker, which is more
Yeah.
cognito, being able to go into like gas station, buy chips, talk really quick, and leave, and they're like, oh, low, it's 12 o'clock. We better head downtown to that swanky jazz nightclub. Ridiculous. Like, it's stupid. Like, I feel like this is the type of thing that goes well off with like the general audience because they don't know any better. And ignorance is truly bliss. You can go into that completely blind, not understanding why this makes sense or why it has to be a certain way. You just get to enjoy it. But like, whenever you've grown up with something, you understand why it is what it is, why the world's built that way, why it exists the way it exists. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the weirdest fucking changes is like, since when was Spike Spiegel not his identity?
True.
That was just like, what the fuck was that about? Like, honestly, I was just like, what? Like, I actually paused it and I said, no, rewind it. Like, what? You can call me Spike now. I was like, dude, even in the flashbacks, everyone's calling him Spike because that's who he is. Like, he was a member of a crime syndicate. Like, he didn't change his identity.
Yeah.
Like, was the understanding that if people were going to come after him and he was literally going to make a mess back, then, they would escalate, yes. But, like, there was the understanding that the Red Dragon Syndicate were always expecting Spike to come back to be next heir. That's how it was. So why would he not be Spike Spiegel? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I was just like, that is just ridiculous. Like, my God. He had mentioned too, he's just like, oh, well, it's better than having the entire backstory be played out of this stupid ending. I was like, no, dude, like, that was back when ending credits were actually relevant to the show. It wasn't just like a bunch of random characters dancing a fucking techno pop.
Yes.
Like, the entire backstory of Cowboy Bebop, Spike's story, is literally played through real folk blues. Like, that entire ending sequence is his time with the Red Dragon Syndicate, meeting Julia, falling in love, and then fucking deserting. She chooses not to come in because Vicious would have killed them. Like, I'm sorry if you don't understand that, but it's clearly there. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe that's gonna be like some of the backstory, blah blah. I was like,
And-
sure.
Yeah, and in this article, the guy goes on to say, Spike Spiegel is a cowboy with a broken heart. That really is who he is at his core. Nemec explains. Jet Black is the eternal optimist, a grumpy guy with a heart of jelly beans. Faye Valentine at her core is a survivor. Someone who's not going to let the hardships of the world around her while they try to keep kicking her down. So Jet Black's more than just that. He's not the eternal optimist as portrayed by whenever Spike falls for the bait and goes to basically challenge Vicious when Faye gets captured by Vicious. Jet Black's telling him not to go. It's like, dude, this is a mistake. You're making a big mistake and you're going to pay for it, So Jet Black is not an eternal optimist. That's a silly thing to say. And
he was literally betrayed by his partner.
What it's like. Yeah, exactly. He understands what it's like to be part of that world. So the eternal optimist, if anything, he's a pessimist.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
He's often the one that tells people not to do something.
if
He's like the
anything,
more negative
Spike
one.
is the optimist one because he's always not concerned with how things are going to turn out. He's always just kind
Yeah.
of jumping into
Whatever
things
happens,
foolhardily.
happens.
And then, of course, you got the guy continuing to say, if you're playing a cowboy with a broken heart, that's not typically a 20-something story. Because he says, casting live action actors who are older than their anime selves builds richer stories for the characters.
How? Explain how that builds a richer story. Hey, oh my god, I'm sorry, I don't even mean
Dude,
to
isn't it
interrupt, but
so fucking annoying, though, to hear that?
like okay, like I understand like you're trying to put out your quota, your articles or whatever, but when you're using like these words to make yourself try to sound smarter or something, it's just stupid. Like what did I just see on it was a review for Marvel's Eternals. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
mentioning like the good versus the bad because apparently it's just
People didn't
again I
like
haven't
it.
seen it, but I like it and I am trying to say this as many times as I need to because apparently like it's just not understand. You're allowed to not like things. I want everyone listening to that to understand this. You are allowed not to like things. You don't have to fucking be like the cookie cutter, like, oh, everything's good. I have to like it because everyone's gonna say I'm a bad person for not. You should be allowed to dislike,
Of
like,
course.
allowed to dislike things. Like, whenever somebody says that you have to like this because it's like offensive or something, not if you don't like, that's bullshit. But what did they say? Like, for the good. This is the thing that just stuck out to me. It said, shockingly fun, authentic humor. And my actual comment I posted on their pages, what does shockingly fun, authentic humor even mean? What does that mean?
If it's
It is
authentic
shockingly
humor,
fun,
how is it
authentic
shocking?
humor. Yes. It has to be funny, shockingly authentic humor. Like, it can't just be one or the other. It has to be all of that. Like, that's
Just throwing
ridiculous.
words out to make it sound funner than it
Yeah.
actually is.
Like, you list your pros and cons, and apparently they're both valid. Then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this still gets an 8 from us.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'd still watch an 8. So, like, what are you trying to say? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's what happens whenever you're paid to review something.
I hear
But
that it's getting a lot of grief, though. The Eternals.
yeah, I honestly think it's a movie that's trying to do so much with too little. Like, your entire like worldview based on what I've seen in the like trailers are like, oh, we could have done everything the Avengers did but better, but we chose not to. Like, okay, you made the choice not to interfere, then fuck you. Like, don't try and
Yeah.
come now that you're like the saviors of the world. They're
If
like,
people don't
oh, the
like your
Avengers
movie
have.
now, maybe you should have taken those extra steps.
Yeah, you should have fucking introduced these characters in the beginning. And it's the same thing like with whole Ant-Man, how people didn't like the direction they went to. It's like, yeah, Ant-Man was supposed to be the originator of the MCU. They didn't. They waited an extra 5 years and they did the freaking Iron Man instead. That's why we didn't get to do Hank Pym because it was like, oh, now Hank Pym's too old for this, whatever. We got Scott Lang instead, which is fantastic because I love Paul Rudd. But it's
Yeah.
like, don't pretend like Scott Lang and Hank Pym are the same fucking characters. Hank Pym's like a genius. Scott Lang's like fucking. He's like the petty thief with the engineering degree, so he's smart, but he's not a genius.
Yeah.
But the trailer just really was like, oh, the Avengers have a Hulk. We have like Lita or whatever Angelina Jolie's character is, because of course she has to be like the best and the badass. She's another character too. Like, she can never be cast as like a regular person. She always has to be like, oh, I'm like the ultimate spy. I'm the ultimate ass kicker.
The
It's like
ultimate
ridiculous.
witch.
Yeah, like everything. Like, she's like, you don't know how to just play a normal person, do you?
She's
Jesus Christ.
exactly, but she's
It's the
not a
same.
normal person.
No, right? She's Angelina Jolie, and oh my god,
Yeah. It's
ridiculous.
super. It's disingenuous, is what it is. It's pandering to people who like that kind of shit, and
Yep,
I don't
the
know, it's fucking
ultimate level.
annoying.
Yeah,
It's like
and I don't. What?
I was just gonna continue on. Well, he goes on to say, like I said, if you're playing a cowboy with a broken heart, that's not a 20-something story. You know what I mean? Like a 20-year-old something story. You're not quite
Oh,
old enough to carry the hardships of a cowboy. I think that really
oh,
became
I.
clear to me that to really feel the characters themselves, you'd need to track and live with them. They'd need real depth and life experience in their soul, and that's something that John brought. Bullshit.
You're one implying that there's never been a young cowboy. Like, that's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
how old do you think fucking cowboys were? Two. How old are you? old are you to speak on this on other people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Are you a
where's your depth
cowboy
of
that
knowledge?
has all the experience and that you know that
Yeah,
there's no 20 something
you
year old
wrote it. You wrote
cowboys?
it for
The fuck out of
an
here.
older cowboy. Like, come on, that's ridiculous.
It's
So
so
you're more
stupid, dude.
often like, what do you
Also,
think Billy the Kid was? Billy the Kid wasn't Billy the fucking midlife crisis man. Like, you're ridiculous. Like, this stupid. This just get out of here, please.
it's a stupid thing to say, especially
It really
because,
is.
right, like that is literally it's literally what's so important about his age is that he was a fucking natural. He was a natural, and he's very good even at his age, and that's why Spike is so fucking cool. Like that's
Spike is
why
20
he is that
fucking
person.
7.
Yeah, and that is it. Like you have taken that away from him now. You've made something that was part of his identity no longer part of his identity because you think let me change his identity because you've that's what you've done. You've changed his identity. You haven't clarified
Figuratively
his
and literally.
identity.
Because literally, he's
Exactly.
not. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
somebody else that became Spike. Like,
What a
what are you
fucking
talking about?
what a twerp, I swear.
That is.
It's so oh my god, it's so fucking annoying.
I more than words. More than words.
You see, I can't imagine anyone being Spike Spiegel but John Cho because John brings a depth to the character. He's quick-witted. It can be. I don't know, man. Like,
Let the record show that there has never been any actor in the history of cinema, stage, screen, TV
yeah,
show, even radio actors that has ever had death. All your favorite movies, all your favorite actors,
nope.
shit, you're wrong. Your opinion is trash. If you're not watching a movie, it's John Cho. There's no debt to it.
And
As a
that's the
fan of John
thing.
Cho, I can say with utmost confidence that I only watch actors with debt.
Well, the thing about it, right, is like I rewatch Cowboy Bebop all the time. I put it on to go to sleep. It's just one of those things that I do well in the
Literally finished
background.
rewatching it this week.
Yeah. And I'm currently rewatching it again, right? Like I've already rewatched it in preparation for all this, and then of course I'm just gonna watch it again because I always watch it. And there's a real clear difference between the two. Cowboy Bebop, the anime, is a serious story with funny bits in it.
Mhm.
The Netflix show, or I'm sorry, a serious story with silly parts in it. The Netflix
Mhm.
show feels like a silly story with serious parts in it.
Mhm.
That's how I feel. And and you get that from the trailer, you get that from the opening sequence. It's overdone, and I think they've misunderstood how serious the storyline actually is and how like at any point, right, he could have died in millions or a ton of different points within the story
Mhm.
itself. He could have easily died, just one bullet could have hit him, but he's just that good, right? That's not silly, that is serious. The silly things are like,
It's like
you know
episode 7, the first two-parter. Like, he almost dies out of the window, but he literally gets caught at the last
yeah,
second.
but I mean even besides that, right, like there's just bullets flying around
He's a bounty hunter.
yeah,
Bullets are gonna fly.
the
Like,
first
by the trade.
the first episode when he's being choked on by from behind, right? And the guy
Mm.
literally stops because the girl asks him to. Maybe he could have done something to get out of that, right? But by all intents and purposes, he could have very well have just been dead right there. He took a
Dead
gamble and
direct.
ended up living from it. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Is I haven't seen anything in these trailers that indicates to me that this is a serious story with silly parts, but more so a silly story with serious parts in it. And it's really frustrating to me because I feel like there was a misunderstanding somewhere along the way. But it feels like to me that I don't know, man, just how many times I don't know how many times we all have to say it, but I haven't seen anybody get online talking about how this show looks fucking fabulous and fantastic except for the creators themselves.
No,
And
absolutely.
at the end of the day, if the only people defending it are the people who are making it, you got some pretty big problems.
Yeah, like the fucking Dune director is still like hyping up his movie. It's like, oh, this is to blow everything Marvel out of the water.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you can't even beat James Bond. Settle down. Um, I think No Time to Die has made like 600 million so far.
Yeah.
Um, I think I don't think the show is going to be as good as everyone wants it to be. I don't think it's going to be as good as, even the least impressive person in the world wants it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be, and I really hate saying this is going to be a huge step for uh, the majority of people who say that so and so shouldn't be adapted, so and so doesn't translate well to screen. And from what I'm seeing so far, it definitely doesn't look like it is. And the problem is like, I mean, like you didn't try too hard. Like you tried so hard to make this something it's not, and I don't think that at the end of the day it's going to be Cowboy Bebop. It's going to be just like this own fucking thing. But
Yeah.
they're going to use the name something popular to try and draw people in, and it sucks because yeah, I think casting should have been your first and foremost priority, and that clearly wasn't the case. And story-wise, I think a lot of what we're seeing, if the rumor ends up being true that they're breaking it down into seasons, then fine. But if this is really just 10 episodes and they're really trying to squeeze all this in, and what we saw from Leperia, it's like episode like 23. So I
And
don't
he
know why he's
is
showing up. Riot Lefleur.
right. Like all this looks good. Don't get me
So what
wrong.
brings you back from the dead?
Like all the space scenes, all of that looks fantastic, right? Can't really complain much about that. Space is really easy to do these days. Doing it wrong would have been depressing, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Believe it or not.
how could you have gotten that one
You
wrong?
know what you used to be?
But I'm trying to find the spot.
Literally never show them in space. Just be like, oh, I can't believe that space trip lasted so quickly.
I go by Spike Spiegel these days. Oh, really? Interesting.
That means you chose that name.
Spoken like a man who's never been in love.
One thing I will say is, Jet. His character just seems too like silent to me. Jet's always bitching about something. You know what I mean? Like he's always grunting and.
And it's so funny you say that because like he comes off, and I don't know if it was just the voice actor doing it, but like he comes off as like the gruff old man. Like
Yeah.
Jet is fucking 35. Like they literally portray these people as way
He's
too
just
fucking
seasoned.
old. The oldest person is Faye. She's 78 years old, but because of the cryogenic freezing, she's like 22. It's like
Which is funny, right? Because if you really think about it, in the Netflix series, Jet is actually portrayed younger than he is in the show or in the anime, but Spike is portrayed older. And then of course you have this guy saying, "Well, it's important for us to get older people portraying younger roles because they're supposed to have more experience." Well, why didn't you do that same thing with Jet? You're not showing consistent decisions along the way. You're only giving me a fucking excuse for the decision you made to cast John Cho as Spike. That's all you're doing, and that's really
Absolutely.
fucking lame.
yeah, like you don't get to pick and choose where you're gonna stand on. You either pick a lane, you stick to it. Like that's ridiculous. Just because it's convenient to say this on record because you're doing like an interview, and then be like, oh well, oh, it made sense for Spike. Yeah. Like no, shut up.
It's so stupid, dude. Like,
Like the whole reason, if you want to go back like 10 fucking years ago, where the talks of this started, whenever fucking John Cho, whenever Keanu Reeves was like everyone's choice to play fucking Spike, and everyone kept on saying, well, he's too old now, he's too old now. Well, where the fuck was that now? Like with John Cho, when Keanu Reeves was literally 10 years younger at the time. Definitely trained in martial arts. As you clearly see from John Wick, his age has nothing to do with his ability to whoop somebody's ass. Like, just fucking be honest. No, just because somebody called you on your bullshit, admit you're fucking wrong.
yeah.
Ridiculous.
One of my other issues with it was when they introduced Faye. Oh, let me correct myself real quick. Mustafa's 45 in real life. I didn't realize that. He looks a lot younger. But Mustafa, the guy who's playing Jet Black.
Oh yeah.
He looks a lot younger, so I'll give him props for being young looking. But he doesn't look like an old man. And Jet is portrayed as like an old man. He's bald headed and everything, you know. That could just be the stress. But more importantly,
60-40 split.
how Faye introduces, I was thinking about we could partner up, maybe a 60-40 split. That scene, like in the original anime, is so important because she's literally coming to save the day. They had no choice but to take her offer in that moment. They absolutely needed her help, and that's the only reason they agreed to it. not because they need her, not because, you know, they worked out some kind of deal with her or anything like that. Nobody wanted her on the ship. They didn't trust her. Faye is a fucking thief, and literally she stole from them twice before. So what reason would they have to put her on the ship? You know what I mean? In that moment, they literally needed her help. She didn't offer her help at some fucking diner table and then talk about how they were gonna split out their fucking pay. Like, get the fuck out of here.
It's crazy, and even
That's
within
changing the
confines,
dynamic between the characters. You know,
that's
not
strong.
just changing the characters themselves, but the dynamic between them. Like,
Of course.
So that should take 60% of the screen time. In all seriousness, it's definitely true. And then within the confines of the show themselves, like, Faye leaves them like 3 fucking times. And
this
so,
guy
you know,
right here, oh my god, it's so fucking hard to watch, dude. Perot like taking off with like clear strings on his back.
so ridiculous. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna hold up as well as everybody wants to, and it sucks because this is a literal timeless masterpiece, I think.
And then John
It's
Cho's like really terrible martial arts. Like him
Yeah,
punching
like-
the little fucking like practice dummy.
And they added that. I don't know why. That's weird. I think that they try to do like the whole long, like, because you saw Daredevil, right? Like the first season on Netflix.
No, actually, I never watched Daredevil.
Ever watch any of the Netflix Marvel
Missed
stuff?
a lot of the TV Marvel stuff. My bad.
Okay.
It didn't come to play
Well-
into like the whole grand scheme of things. So
Because Disney said no.
Yeah.
Disney doesn't like to share. Well, I don't know. Maybe you heard about it, but they did like the hallway fight, which was a long continuous fight scene, and it was like, you know, lauded. It was amazing. It was bad. It was badass, definitely for fucking Daredevil. Then a lot of shows and movies started trying to copy that like whole long form thing, and I think that's what they're trying to do here with like a wide angle fight. The problem with the long view is like you're seeing one thing going on continuously, and they're trying to capture everything at once while it's like slowly moving, and so you see a lot of people just idle,
yeah,
not doing anything because it's not like they're seeing a fight. So it translated very poorly how they try to like court it. So I don't know. I'm not looking forward to that. At that point, I would prefer they just all have gunfights all the time.
yeah. One of the other things, and it's one of the things that bugs me so much, right, is Spike is not a hard character to act because he doesn't really talk to people. Kind of talks at them, mostly funny comebacks and shit like that, you know. But he's not a very hard actor, or not a very hard character to act, I think. Which begs the question: if you're going to have a stunt double for John Cho, who can actually do the martial arts, why not cast that stunt double as the main fucking character? Like,
I mean,
I get they're a stunt double, but holy fuck. Like, do you really think that we believe watching John Cho have a hard time handling that fucking pole? And then the next scene is him fucking spinning around doing backflips and shit like that. Do you really think that we fall for that?
yes,
I know it
exactly.
isn't John Cho. Everyone knows it's not John Cho. Like,
Did he suddenly summoned some sort of like super strength and like dexterity.
dude,
And the problem is like besides John Cho, which don't get me wrong, I've definitely seen my share of his dramatic pieces, but he is first and foremost, I believe, a comedy actor.
yeah.
The big break in fucking American Pie, for God's sakes, by shouting MILF. Beyond him, I don't know any of the other casts. They all seem pretty much unknown to me, and if I'm wrong, sure. But the thing is, if that's what you were going for, then fine. Like you know, whatever, you change the game casting wise. But in my opinion, looking at that basically says without John Cho, it's nothing but no names.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but at the same time, if you weren't going for like iconic actors in this role, then why would you say like John Cho was the role? If again you have this stunt actor that can do everything, you know what I mean? Like at that point, do you really care about the acting ability if you're just trying to portray this character? It's ridiculous because, you know, what's done is done. Here we are. And see, that's the problem too, because at this point, like they already fucking made the show. At this point, we're either saying It's good. We were wrong. Congratulations. Like, you made a show. You made the show that was good. The people loved it. Whatever. Netflix is lauding it. Yada yada yada. Here's another season. Or it's bad. Netflix cancels it, and then now the fandom has lost out on adaptation of what
Another
something that could have.
adaptation.
That's something that could have been, if done correctly, great.
How hard is it, dude?
Not.
Like how fucking hard is it? Like Death Note, Attack on Titan, fucking
Fullmetal Alchemist.
how many times?
Dragon Ball.
How many times
I'm
does it
s-
have to fucking?
I am so for One Piece, man. And they've been like leaking the scripts and like, oh look, it's an iconic title, this and that. Like, I'm so scared for One Piece. I really am. I'm sure that they're gonna squeeze like 72 fucking arcs like in 5 episodes and be like, wow, wasn't that great? Can't wait
Nope.
to see the CGI effects of Luffy's stretching arm in 3D. God,
Yeah.
can't wait! I can't wait for John Cho to be Luffy.
Well, that's the thing that
It was important for us in the life of a pirate, have an older pirate look back on his
Yep,
years.
an older Asian pirate. They didn't even. That's the thing is there's no justification for it. They don't ever
No.
say why it had to be that way. They just say, well, yeah, we just thought it had to be.
I think that if we have an
Why?
iconic enemy being portrayed by Harold, it's only natural we have an iconic enemy being portrayed by Kumar.
Yeah, and I'd watch that.
I want Calpen as Luffy. You heard it here, folks. I will
I
not
would
bitch
watch
at all.
that.
I would watch the fuck out of that.
I was like, holy fucking shit! My arm
Just like-
stretches.
Just like smoking up doobies.
Man, like
Neil Patrick Harris as
I watched Harold and Kumar
Old
more.
Roger.
Harold and Kumar is like up there on my list of movies I've seen the most. You know what I mean? Like
which
well
one
over
specifically?
500 times. The first one, like
Yeah.
well over that many times.
If I had to put 100%, I'd say the first one is like 85, and the second one's probably closer to like 12%. Because the third one was okay, but I didn't watch it that many times. Like it was just
Yeah.
like I mean, because it was in 3D, you know, whatever like limited 3D it was.
Yeah.
So the first couple times were in theaters, but after that, it's just like, yeah, I didn't really care too much.
And like I don't know, man. Like obviously I have nothing against Asians. I don't know if I have to expressly say that. But that's
In
not my
today's world, we
words.
do.
That
Yeah.
wasn't my words. That was the actual the director's words, not mine.
Yeah.
They're the ones that said that.
It's
and that's
crazy,
the
too,
part that
because-
just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's crazy because like, I think this is like his first big like
In some
television
time.
show.
That's not what's important, right? What's important is if you're going to feed me some nonsense as to why you're making a decision, and I ask you, like, okay, well, how did you come to that decision? And you're not willing to tell me, then I'm just going to assume you're bullshitting me.
Andre Nemec.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Full seasons of Alias. He did the screenplay for Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Beverly Hills Cop 4, which hasn't been done, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the really bad live action one. Great.
Or bad, guys.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I don't see anything here that would have him be justified to do that, so that's weird. Okay. Thanks a lot, dude. You cast Johnny Knoxville as fucking
Or bad, guys.
Leonardo. That's your
Yeah.
claim to fame. Oh my god. She didn't reprise in the second role, so there you go. I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's actually kind of funny, right? Like, so the girl here on this trailer is the leader of the animal rights activist group.
Mama.
Yeah, Mama. This is the episode I was talking about earlier, when they're trying to shoot the toxins back onto Ganymede, and they're trying to turn everybody on the planet into, reverse monkeys, trying to turn them back into monkeys, right?
Mm.
In this episode, they're in, hyperspace. They launch those missiles, and they're trying to get them to leave hyperspace and then hit Ganymede, right? Literally in that episode is when Spike misses one of the canisters. Faye comes in behind him and tells him, I can help you, but I want 80% of the take. And they said, bullshit, 60-40. And so she goes, okay, but I get the 60. That is literally the episode where she says that. Now, in this same trailer for the Netflix Cowboy Bebop, she's sitting at the table asking them for a 60-40 split and basically discussing their partnership,
Terms.
if you will.
Yeah.
Which means, to me, that scene does not exist within the context of the show itself. Because if that's when it happened in the anime, and she's already talking about the 60-40 split at the table, then that scene doesn't exist in the show.
Unless like it's some crazy running catchphrase for her. Like, how are we gonna split this pizza?
gonna be
Well,
stupid.
60-40. I get 60.
Oh, that's gonna be so stupid, dude. But I mean, that's how I'm taking it.
I don't know.
Is there's not gonna be that scene within the context of the actual live action show.
Like they're kind of like cutting
No.
and pasting like the story in this weird way.
And that's the thing, right? Like, and that's perfectly fine. It's fine to cut and paste. I'm not saying it's not. I'm fine. It's fine to change things. You know, it is fine to change things. What's not fine is reducing the storyline because you think it has to be done, right? Like, a perfect example of that is, I don't know if y'all have seen the Dune movie that just came out, but the Dune movie that just came out does not reduce. It does not change anything. And I'm sorry, it might change a very few, little things here and there, but for the most part, they stick pretty heavily to what they're trying to accomplish, almost to the point where it hurts the story. You know what I mean? Like stuff that's just not going to work. And so it takes a lot of finessing. It does take a lot of finesse to get it right. But when you're changing like such small things like that, right? And you're trying to convince everybody that it's, you put out a fucking opening sequence that's shot for shot. You put out another thing that's showing shot for shot. And then like you put out a trailer and it's just like, okay, well, there are clear differences here. What are you trying to tell us? Are you telling us it's shot for shot? Are you telling us it's going to be different? Like, I don't know. I don't even know where they're coming from. I don't know what they're trying to tell us it's going to be like. They've told us it's supposed to be the same. They've told us it's supposed to be different. So, I mean, what the fuck am I supposed to think as a spectator? I'm going to come into this thinking, well, shit, they don't know what the fuck they were trying to do. So I don't know what to expect. So I'm going to sit down and watch it and I'm going to be like, well, this is weird. If you don't know what direction you're going in, how the fuck do you think I'm going to follow as a spectator?
Absolutely, and see that's the thing. It's mindset. It's going to come down to mindset. If you tell me that this is shot for shot, okay, I know what to expect. I know what to look for.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna grade you on accuracy. I'm like, oh wow, like that was just right out of that. Or just like, wow, because that's what people have been doing already. They've been doing like the shot for shot trailer, like, oh, this is where it matches up here. That's already showing you analysis. That's showing you this is your control. This is your experiment. This is how it matches up. This is how it syncs up. If you're telling me it's going to be different, I need to know, like, okay, well, this is what this was. Okay, oh, well, he's supposed to be that guy. If you don't look the part, of course, I'm going to notice that. But if you're not even acting the way the character is supposed to act, then that's a really big glaring, like, that's an oversight. It's a fuck up. See, the thing is, if you're taking that and you're trying to say that this is Cowboy Bebop and it's not, then it's not. And people are going to call you out on that. They're going to be like, this could have been called anything else because you've already decided turn this into something that's not.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like with anything Netflix original, it really is just one or another. Like it's either like a fucking home run hit that people are talking about and like, oh, this should be going for awards, this and that, or something that's so forgettable that once you get pushed out of that top 10 on like the home screen, nobody fucking cares to look it up. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Fatale my ass. I don't know, man. It looks like she's gonna be a handful for them, and the whole thing with like finally getting to see Ein, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, Ed." Even that, like, I think it was like the Netflix official Twitter's like, "Oh, we're looking for Ed. Well, don't worry, haha, he's gonna show up." And then they show like the date of the show premieres, like,
Yeah.
Watch it and find out.
And that's so stupid. Just
Ed doesn't show up till episode 9 of the show. The 26 episodes. This is
yeah.
being billed as 10 episodes.
So I'm guessing like
So-
episode 4.
Maybe if that's how they do it.
I,
Reimagining.
what if he's like in episode 1, like 2 minutes in? He's been there the whole
Right.
time. They just decided to take. And that's the part that's like kind of frustrating to me
gonna be-
is
they're
what
gonna knock on
direction
the
did they
door.
go in with that one?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the real, like, that's the real factor that I'm like,
Yes.
like, I want to
Absolutely.
understand the mindset of the people who are making it. And I feel like that is one of those things that would give their clear mindset away. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I
Set-
feel like that's an intentional omission.
Draw the line. Oh, absolutely. They've already changed so many characters and quote unquote reimagined them. You know, because it makes it better to do that, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whenever they do that, and it's gonna be something so ridiculous. It's just gonna be like them knocking on the door, and be like, "Ed, we need you," and then like the doors open, the fog rolls in, and Ed just steps out.
Yeah. And he's a
I-
fucking like mermaid man.
Oh my god! Right? Like, yeah. They have
Would
to
you
will
be
him out.
surprised?
I wouldn't.
He's
But
like
they
in
have
a,
to will him
he's
out
got
like in
an
a goldfish
oxygen
bowl.
fucking mask on and
Okay.
everything too. He's like, hey, let me get on my computer. And you're just like, what the fuck happened here? Like,
Doesn't
oh my
even call out the whole
God.
title. The whole Ed is gonna be like, you know, the fucking. It's gonna be like an abbreviation for something.
It's like Eduardo Castellano, and you're just like,
Like,
was that
It's gonna-
was that what it was short
I am
for?
gonna,
Like, what the
I will
fuck?
turn off the TV. I will turn
Oh
off
my
the TV.
god, dude, I would too.
We're gonna,
I
we're
would
gonna, we're gonna
unsub
talk.
to Netflix the same
Yes.
day. Oh,
We're
my
gonna
fucking
we're
God.
gonna review this, and you're gonna be like, "What did you think?" And I was like, "I don't know. I literally turned off the TV."
What it's gonna be is be like a 10-second video of us going, well, how the fuck did we guess that?
Yeah, that's crazy. You heard it here first on the shit take, folks.
Oh my god,
But-
dude.
I don't know. It'd be like electronic diagnostic water.
If I had to be honest, what I think they're gonna do with it is either like something like just cast a transgender, because that's super popular right now,
Yeah.
or they'll cast Ruby Rose,
Yikes! Hey, well, she's
someone
She's
who's like
old
super
enough.
androgynous.
she's old enough to properly portray a 13-year-old, because a 13-year-old hacker doesn't have the life experience that
Exactly,
a 30-year-old
yeah.
hacker would have.
They absolutely need that life experience.
They also need her father to be portrayed by a 150-year-old,
Yeah.
because he's a
He's
he's a meteor chaser, and you need the life experience
Mm-hmm.
of somebody born off planet for that.
yeah.
Who knows how old this dog plane 9 is in dog years? You have to dial that up to like 75 in dog years experience. And people who are calling us, like, I'm sure they're thinking that we're just assholes about this, but like, remember how pissed off people were whenever they first said that Ein wasn't even going to be a corgi?
Yeah.
If you're allowed to get that upset about a dog's casting, why aren't you allowed to get that upset over humans casting? That's my question I'm posing to y'all.
Yeah.
Is, again, feel free to sound off the comments below.
And that's the truth,
'Cause-
right? How do you make
Truth,
that
brother.
mistake?
Something as easy it is to fucking cast a dog. There just weren't
Yeah.
a lot of corgi actors available.
They just wanted the easiest option, which is the extremely smart German Shepherd.
Yeah, but I mean, look at fucking Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They have a wealth of corgi actors, and
Oh yeah,
no offense, Cheddar's one of the funniest fucking characters in that show.
yeah.
So, I mean, if you can do that, if you can do that for a show that's been going on for 8 fucking seasons, like, you can surely do that for something lasting 10 episodes.
Yeah. Fuck them. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I just feel like
feel
like
like
they're
that's-
taking something that I've been waiting a long time for, not just me, but the entire fan base, and they're just, I don't know, they're not treating it with the same regard we've treated it with over the the past 20 something years,
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, whenever they say, "Oh, all live actions are doomed to fail," like, look at Detective Pikachu at its core. Like,
Oh,
first
it's
of all,
fantastic.
ignore the fact that it is in the big wide world of Pokemon, because it didn't even adapt from like an actual Pokemon like main game. It adapted from a fucking side story, like
Yeah.
fucking Professor Layton detective video game. and it was still in the world of Pokemon. They still played a very big role. It worked. The way that they looked was visually like it's appealing. It made sense. Like again within the confines of the game, that Pikachu does talk, so it made sense for the Pikachu to actually speak in a language that humans, but other humans, he was just speaking like a Pokemon to them, and he was able to understand the Pokemon themselves. So it made sense, man. Like it was fine. It made money.
All you got to do is just make a little effort.
Exactly. Like, and see, that's all I'm saying. Like, if you could do something like that work as well as it did, and even the whole Sonic thing, like, again, if people are bitching about, like, us complaining about casting, look how shitty that fucking Sonic originally looked. People fucking said no. It was bad. They voiced their negative opinions that were rightly justified, and they went back and redesigned it. And how fucking long? Yeah, it took, like, what, $14 million to, like, do, and it took an additional year for them to release it. But it came out looking so much better, and that movie was enjoyable. And I'm not saying it was like the greatest video game adaptation on the line, but it was a fine movie.
It's pretty good.
It made money. It fucking let them make the sequel. You know what I mean? Like, it was cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this content, consider liking the video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to be considered in our giveaways. We'll hold them routinely as our subscriber goals are met. This has been the Shit Take. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy, and we hope to see you next time.